Chicago, 1924. The growing city is overtaken with street violence and organized crime. But in Chicago's South Side, in the wealthy Kenwood neighborhood, life seemed to flow quite smoothly for 19-year-old Nathan Leopold and 18-year-old Richard Loeb. The two teenagers came from privilege and comfort. As college-educated sons of wealthy families, they seemed to have it all, but they still weren't satisfied. They weren't after money or fame. They were after something darker, the thrill of committing the perfect crime. On May 21st, 1924, their twisted experiment claimed the life of 14-year-old Bobby Franks, Loeb's own cousin. They committed a murder that was so cold and calculated, not out of need, but just to prove they could get away with it. What followed shocked the United States, captured global headlines, and was labeled the crime of the century. How could two brilliant young men turn into killers, and what was their slip-up that led to their arrest? This is the story of Nathan Leopold and Richard Loeb, the rich kids who killed for fun. Nathan Leopold Jr. was born in 1904 into a wealthy family. His family were German Jewish immigrants who had struck fortune in the shipping and transportation business after arriving in America. From a young age, it was clear that Nathan was no ordinary child. His intellect was way greater than kids his age. At just 19, he had graduated from the University of Chicago, spoke 5 languages, and his fascination with studying birds earned him recognition as a published bird expert. But brilliance came at a cost. Nathan's intellect did not do him any favors on the playground. He was often targeted by bullies, and it was hard for him to make friends. As he got older, his intellect and family wealth fostered something else: arrogance. Nathan began to see himself as superior and detached from those around him. He believed his intelligence placed him above the rules that governed ordinary people. This was the beginning of a dangerous mindset, one that would soon spiral into something deadly. Only 2 blocks apart, Richard Albert Loeb was born in 1905, the third out of 4 sons of a wealthy Jewish lawyer. From an early age, Richard was marked as a prodigy. He skipped multiple grades, got into the University of Michigan at just 15, and by 17, he became the youngest graduate in the school's history. He continued his studies with postgraduate work at the University of Chicago. Unlike Nathan, Richard was charming, outgoing, and a bit reckless. But beneath the charm, there was a darker current. Richard had been stealing from a young age. Whenever he got caught for something, he lied with ease and got himself out of it. He constructed an elaborate fantasy world where he was the criminal mastermind, a genius no one could touch. His crimes escalated quickly, from stealing from his own family to shoplifting, then to acts of vandalism and even arson. Richard also developed an obsession with nihilistic beliefs, getting inspiration from the writings of Friedrich Nietzsche. Richard believed he was destined for that role, and that he could prove it through the ultimate act, orchestrating the perfect murder. When Richard met Nathan at the University of Chicago, they got along instantly. Their friendship started in the spring of 1920 as part of a large mutual friend group, but continued to grow stronger separately. It wasn't long before the pair became inseparable. They were a perfect and deadly match. Leopold, brilliant but socially awkward, was captivated by Richard's charm and confidence. To Nathan, Loeb was everything he wished to be. He admired him, almost worshipped him. For them, there was no greater test to prove their moral superiority than to commit the most heinous act of all and escape without consequence. It would prove, once and for all, that they were above the ordinary man, superior and untouchable. This is when things start taking a dark turn. The duo spent 7 months planning and rehearsing every detail of their scheme. Eventually, they came up with a plan. They would kidnap a young boy, kill him, and then throw investigators off with a fake ransom note. The crime wasn't personal by any means, and had no real motive or emotion behind it. Their chosen victim was 14-year-old Bobby Franks, a fellow resident of Kenwood and the youngest son of a wealthy Chicago businessman. Bobby was not only a neighbor of the duo, but was also Richard's distant cousin. He often came by the Loeb residence to play tennis on their court. In the days before the murder, they created gags, bought a chisel, rope, and hydrochloric acid. On May 21st, 1924, the plan was set in motion. The pair rented a car under a fake identity and waited for Bobby as he walked home from a baseball game. They lured him inside the vehicle under the pretext that Loeb wanted to ask him about something. Once inside, one of them struck Bobby in the head with a chisel and stuffed a gag in his mouth while the other drove away. Only a few minutes later, Bobby took his last breath in the car, in the back seat. They then drove up to the state border and dumped his body in a railroad gutter, pouring hydrochloric acid over him to make his identification more difficult, before rushing home to send a ransom note to Bobby's parents demanding $10,000 for his safe return. The note was typed months prior on Leopold's portable typewriter, which the boys destroyed, along with the rope and chisel used in the murder. The duo's planning seemed to account for every detail. All evidence was destroyed, and the ransom note was sure to swing suspicions far away from them. They truly believed they had succeeded in pulling off the perfect murder. What they had done was nothing but an experiment that represented the triumph of their intellect over what they saw as the inferior rest of society. But the perfect crime is far more difficult to achieve, and that's what the two were about to find out. Unexpectedly, the boys' nihilistic aspirations to get away with murder came crashing down just the next day. In the early morning hours of May 22nd, just as the family of young Bobby Franks received the ransom note, a local factory worker coming home from a night shift stumbled across Bobby's body in the railroad gutter. Not long after, the police and press swarmed over to investigate. Evidence didn't take long to find. A pair of eyeglasses believed to belong to the perpetrator were found with the body, the first fatal mistake by the murderers. Although the glasses themselves were nothing unusual, they led the police right to them. The glasses had a custom-made hinge that was quite unique and could be traced to only 3 individuals in all of Chicago. One of them belonged to a woman who still had the glasses in her possession. The second belonged to a man who was in Europe at the time, and the third belonged to none other than Nathan Leopold. Soon after, police tracked down Leopold and took him to a hotel for investigation. Nathan insisted that he had lost the glasses on a birdwatching trip a few weeks before and had spent the night of the murder driving around Chicago with Loeb. Detectives started questioning Richard, who at first backed up his friend's alibi. But their story went up in flames when the Leopold family's chauffeur showed up at the police station with a piece of information he thought would clear up the boy's name. The chauffeur told the police that they couldn't have driven a body to the railroad drain because he had the car the entire night. With their story now in shambles, Loeb quickly cracked and confessed to the murder, pinning the killing on Nathan and claiming he only drove the car. Hearing this, Nathan was determined to set the record straight, confessing but insisting he was the one behind the wheel. With all the supposed preparations the duo made, they never planned how to handle police interrogations. Media coverage got wider by the day. Police got solid evidence. Nathan and Richard have an extremely tough case to beat. It was time for the trial. As soon as the confessions were made, Leopold's father hired the best and most expensive criminal attorney he could find, Clarence Darrow. Instead of contesting the crime, Darrow had a different strategy: plead guilty and fight to spare the boys from the death penalty, thus avoiding a jury trial and putting the case before a single judge, Judge John R. Caverly. The trial went on for 33 days, during which Darrow painted the two not as monsters, but as mentally troubled boys who deserved mercy. He blamed the murder on immaturity and lack of guidance. Every newspaper in the country followed the case, which became a media sensation. Leopold and Loeb's wealth, brilliance, and arrogance, as well as the modernist approach of Darrow's defense, fascinated the public. Finally, the lawyer's strategy worked, and on September 10th, Judge Caverly delivered his decision, sentencing Leopold and Loeb to life imprisonment for murder and 99 years for kidnapping. The pair were sent to prison, where Loeb was viciously attacked and killed in 1936 by his cellmate. Leopold was paroled in 1958 after serving 33 years. Following his release, he worked as a hospital technician in Puerto Rico, where he got married in 1961 and died of a heart attack 10 years later. Leopold and Loeb sought the perfect crime. Instead, they created the perfect tragedy. If you're interested in becoming a YouTuber, whether a personal channel or a faceless one, we made a document to help you understand a few key points before you actually invest in YouTube. Click the link in the description. It's completely free. Subscribe and we'll see you on the next one.